Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com.
Hello and welcome to SciTech Culture, the show where we discuss science, technology and culture in its myriad of forms. My name's Ben Warner and I'm joined once again, as always, by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. How are we today, Steve?
I'm good, thanks, Ben. We've got a great topic today for sure.
Oh, scary topic, if anything. So the thing we're going to ask all of you today, and we'll have a bit of a discussion about it, would you ever fly again if you found out that it was possible for someone to remotely hack a plane's flight controls and take control of the plane? US hacker Chris Roberts may have demonstrated this, exploiting vulnerabilities in in-flight entertainment systems at least 15 to 20 times in the last few years, at least he claims, and had on at least one occasion successfully hacked into flight controls to make a plane briefly move sideways. Now, well, there's so many places we can go with this, but the thing that struck me about this particular thing is that it's almost like a sleeper issue. Like, people are so, like, I don't think they would think about this sort of thing. We're the whole thing about being so interconnected with so many things, having so many CPUs and processors and computers and electronics running in everything that we do, that this idea of someone thinking about hacking into any of it is something I don't think a lot of people think about. Now, when you think about a plane, that's one of the scariest things of all, because now it's, you don't have to rush to the front and barge the cockpit door down. You just need to get like the 6 seats in the back of the plane and make sure you're not disturbed and just do it remotely, which is one of the scariest things out of this story.
Well, that's right, because everyone's been looking at AI and Skynet and the computers and everything else taking over. Whereas really now, it's probably the greater worry is it's just someone at home alone in their bedroom.
Exactly. I mean, and is it a question of if for this to have hit the media the way it has, and obviously this Chris Roberts guy is sort of like trying to pull the Good Samaritan sort of trick on this in highlighting the vulnerabilities here, and I know that aviation's a complex sort of industry, and it's very difficult to work out every single scenario. And obviously, there's a lot of history, many years of experience combating various issues in terms of safety. And it seems like this is another one. I guess maybe the top flight, sort of top tier airlines that keep up to date with this sort of thing would probably get onto it, update their systems and all of that. But we're living in a world now with a lot of budget carriers, and there's the chance that maybe they won't go down that route unless they see a cost-effective reason to do so. And you just sort of hope that they sort of put that into place before something serious happens.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, from an airline perspective, this is scary because you can't control this by frisking people at the airport.
Yeah.
But there's a wider issue here, and I think, there've now been the reports about cars being hacked, and, of course, there's ransoming data for businesses, and this is just an extension of that.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just turn briefly to cars as well, and the idea that your car could be hacked as well, because I was getting all nostalgic reading this story about my old '67 HR Holden, the first car that I ever drove. One where you could pop the engine bay and you could actually see the ground through the engine bay, whereas these days you don't see a thing. But there was a good story on our good friends at Norton, the old antivirus people, who were saying, microprocessors, direct braking, acceleration, and even the horn these days, because they're hidden, people don't often understand that there can be anywhere from 30 to 40 microprocessors in most cars, and even up to 100 different ones running different functions in some vehicles. So if you've got a processor controlling the braking system, the acceleration system, and it may not even just be that someone hacks into it. What happens if they fail? That's another issue too. It's very serious stuff.
Well, it's an interesting thing, particularly if you look at it in terms of driverless cars. Now, if one car went rogue in a driverless system, the rest of the system should be able to compensate. However, if a car goes rogue and there's a mixture of humans and other like fly-by-wire cars, then that's a very different matter. And likewise, at the other end extreme, what if you go to your car and a hacker won't let you drive until you send PayPal or Bitcoin for $200?
I'm just wondering in general, like if this sort of thing's happening, if there's any system, a hacker will find their way into it. That's the old adage. So is it just a question of just constant vigilance? So like, we talk about our smartphones and how they carry our entire lives on them. Each iteration of an operating system presumably increases the amount of security patches and whatnot that are in there, but that's going to have to be applied across the board to all devices. And in a sense, with so much electronics going into planes, cars, and all these other vehicles, they are becoming devices as well.
Well, and this is the really interesting point, Ben, because we have to let the malware in. We have to let the hacker in. If you don't, if you only to say stay with proprietary software or systems, then the danger is only when you import, third-party stuff. And Apple have done a really good job, say, on iOS of keeping out nasties because they control every app that goes onto it.
Yeah.
Android doesn't have that protection. So it's a really interesting argument as to which way is the best way to go.
I mean, without knowing the specifics, you would think that there'd be some sort of proprietary software for a commercial grade system or industrial system that would, say, be on an airplane, and that they'd be taking that very seriously because they do so many checks on how the whole system works.
But a lot of plain in-flight software allows you to bring on an app that allows you to interact with their in-flight system. If that in-flight system is connected to the comm system of the plane, that's all you need. If you know the architecture, I'm sure you can get there. And I think this is the bigger danger. In one regard, I don't think it's being overstated, the danger, but probably the risk is probably at the moment, at any rate, overstated.
Maybe it's a question of, to talk about how, say, for instance, iOS does it with Apple, and they sandbox every app so that one doesn't interact with another, and that maybe that's a way to go about doing this. And I'm sure they've maybe thought of it. We're just spitballing here, but you would think that they'd have some you'd hope they'd have got some bright minds working on it.
I'm pretty sure Apple knew all about this when they created a lockdown mobile system. And that's what they're working at. But we've spoken about this sort of thing before. This sort of hacking or manipulation is so much more frightening and has much greater ramifications than just stealing someone's credit card details. So this is the sort of thing that could shatter faith and trust in the internet.
Yeah, and it's good examples because the risk of sort of going down in a plane crash is very slim, despite some of the the big stories that you see from time to time on the news. Despite stories like MH370 and MH17 and others, the reality is that there's very few air crashes each year, and it's been going down progressively over time. So because it's so in your consciousness and you don't think about that aspect of it, it makes it all the more important that these companies are onto it. It's just,
absolutely.
I mean, it's not just a question of. It would even be in their business interest to do it because you just need one incident to shake confidence in the whole thing, and then they're finished.
Yeah, but look, Ben, these are the potential catastrophic consequences. I'm looking, from me personally, think about the more day-to-day experiences. Think about a hacker stopping you getting into your car or someone tracking you everywhere you go. If they're not doing that already. True, but that they'll actually be able to do it. They'll be able to work out what radio station you're listening, what entertainment systems. The implications of what it means in terms of, I guess, both ways, from catastrophic to just plain old spying are really scary. And potentially they can stop your car. Potentially they can scramble your ability to navigate. Worse, they could cause you to crash.
Yeah.
Same on a plane. But what about even just espionage? Just preventing any flight from getting away on time unless, the company pays, 1,000 Bitcoins to get that flight away on time. These are...
it could even just be nuisance examples like people, like hackers just, being mischievous, and having fun.
The nuisance examples are far more scary, actually, than probably the catastrophic ones. If they could shut down an airport for a day, the consequences we've seen when volcanoes stop flights or when airports or airways have to be grounded. So I think there's a lot of other stuff that really is quite frightening in terms of you could have multiple attacks from different directions with different aims, and it could become commonplace. And what that means for society and trade and anything else, just who knows what it means. I mean, what if you could stop supplies of food getting somewhere just by stopping the driverless trucks, or just stopping all the trucks or the trains or the planes?
Exactly. I guess it kind of, just to, in a summation, I guess it kind of brings back this notion: how secure is everything that we're using? And is it amazing that nothing has actually happened yet? Just to put that into some sort of context, I saw an interview on YouTube with Tim Cook where he was asked about this type of event. Could something like this happen? And he actually said that he could imagine that something like this may happen. He couldn't imagine what exactly that would be, but he thought that something like that could happen because that could shake the sort of the confidence in the system. And the fact that we've gone so many years so far without a major incident like that is interesting. And I don't know, is it building to something, or are we just lucky so far?
I think we've just been lucky, but also probably the technology hasn't been there for it to happen. You and I have been talking about this for a couple of years. I don't think revealing people's credit card details are as drastic as actually stopping them doing something. Good, bad, evil. If you could wipe out a city's traffic lights, what's that going to do? If you can stop 50% of the cars, what if you could just block up the freeways by stopping 20 cars at once? These sorts of things, they're like butterfly wings, one little flap, you don't think much of them, but they can be as powerful as hurricanes somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess it's just to finish, it's the dark side of everything that's positive, the dark underbelly of everything that's positive about the technology that can enable us to do all of these things. Because at the same time, the flip side is that all this technology is making it a lot easier to do so many of our things in day-to-day life. Like you said, traffic management systems, planes, cars, trains. I mean, a train system that is dependent on these sorts of things.
What if hackers turn off all the internet fridges?
No more ice cream.
No more ice cream, but just as well, they could shut down all the smart metering or power grids. The chaos that can be caused through this interconnectivity is huge, and it doesn't have to be catastrophic, I guess, or at a high human cost of life. For instance, to have huge implications and very negative ones as well.
Guess we can all maybe rewatch Die Hard 4, even though it's not a great film, but it talks about terrorists taking over, that sort of thing.
Look, just start polishing Granddad's car. You have a use for it very soon.
That's right. Look up the HR Holden. It's a fantastic vehicle. All right, all right, Steve. We might wrap it up there. So thanks again for that, and we'll check back in with this one because I'm sure we'll be revisiting it at some point. All right, so don't forget our website, scitechculture.com. You can get all of our links there. You can interact with us on Twitter, Facebook, and Google+, so I'd love to hear from you. We've got lots of blogs and all sorts of material, so hopefully you'll enjoy all of that. And if you think anyone's interested in these discussions that we have on a regular basis, feel free to send them to that website. We'd greatly appreciate that. And if not, subscribe to our audio and video feeds. All right, that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.